Are we rolling? I'm not sure we're rolling yet, but it appears that we are. We are almost through with the text part of uh, Enochian Vision Magic. And we're getting into some pretty esoteric stuff, and I really have to uh, applaud those of you who have stuck with us this far, because it sort of drifts into pretty complex and esoteric areas of the Enochian system. But I hope I'm making it at least moderately understandable. And believe me, it's easier to sort of grasp when you have a few moments to, as you read through the book, to work these things out for yourself. Uh, as I keep repeatedly saying, it's easier to do this stuff than it is to talk about doing this stuff. But anyway, we're at the chapter 28, which is called the Etheric Workings. And I mentioned earlier that at least modern practice of Enochian magic is divided into two broad categories. One that works with the elemental world, or the elemental tablets of fire, water, air, earth, and spirit, and the angels and intelligences that go into making up the manifest universe of matter and energy. And then the etheric world, or the world of heavens. And if you're sort of used to the old Kabbalistic axiom of as above, so below, or Kether is in Malkuth, as Malkuth is in Kether, only after a different manner. Then it's kind of complicated to try to wrap your meat brain around the mechanics that connect the big world, the above, with the little world below. And that is something that Dee and Kelley were really wanting to do, because they wanted to spy for Queen Elizabeth, and they wanted to know or have access to angelic spies within the 91 parts of the earth. But in doing so, they opened up a can of worms that would oblige them to understand how those 91 parts of the earth are connected to absolutely everything else in the cosmos. So how heaven and earth connect. It's a big subject. But anyway, I'm going to try to explain something because those of us who have been at least cut our teeth on the Kabbalistic magic world of the Tree of Life would just love to project all of this. Well, where does this stand on the Tree of Life? How the Kabbalists look at the frequencies of consciousness as described in the Tree of Life. Well, I'm going to try to do that this morning, okay? But let me read on here. Chapter 28, the Etheric Workings. Everything in heaven and earth is connected to everything in heaven and earth. Everything in heaven and earth is the reflection of everything in heaven and earth. Everything in heaven and earth contains the pattern for everything in heaven and earth. Look hard enough at anything, and you'll eventually see everything. Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. That's the epigram. In order to more easily understand what follows, I ask that you turn back to chapter 18 and refer to the columns in figure 63. You don't need to do that right now, but I'm just going to, it's those columns right there. And column 1 there, you see in column 3 the names of the parts of the earth there in groups of 3. And then in column 1, there in the far left, you see they're just named 1, 2, 3. Right up until the last day of the Enochian period, Dee and Kelley believed that the 30 Aethers, column 1, were simply the numbered segments of creation that organized in groups of 3, the 91 parts of the earth. Furthermore, they believed that the 91 divinely appointed names of the parts of the earth, column 4, were merely the angelic language names for the geographic areas of the earth, named in column 3. But in his final communication of July 13th, it's his birthday, 1584, the angel Elemis revealed that the 30 Aethers have names and a certain connection with the 19th call. As we saw in chapter 25, this concept appeared to confuse and irritate Dee, who seemed comfortable with merely identifying the heirs by their sequence numbers. Even though there's very little in the surviving material to suggest that the 30 heirs are anything other than containers for the parts of the earth, many modern magicians believe they carry a more profound significance. Indeed, it appears to me that this is an excellent example of modern magicians picking up the football where Dee and Kelley dropped it and running with it for a very big touchdown. The basic idea is this. In keeping with the most fundamental Hermetic and Kabbalistic axiom, as above, so below, the microcosmic world, the physical universe, and humanity is the reflection of a heavenly macrocosmic world of divine consciousness. So too, the 30 heirs containing the 91 parts of the earth are the microcosmic reflection of the 30 airs or ethers or heavens that surround and enclose the 4 watchtowers of the great table in 30 heavenly spheres, like layers of a glass onion. And let's see. Hang on, I need to see what I'm doing. Okay, so there would be like the elemental tablets joined together by spirit, but surrounding them in 30 concentric, perfectly drawn concentric circles. This is like a cross-section of a glass onion, okay? So surrounding that are 30 heavens. And and notice that the lowest of the heavens is actually almost touching the corners of those four elemental tablets. So now if imagine in each of those heavens, each of those 30 heavens, there are well, imagine that each of those heavens has 3 angels that run the show, that are the embodiment of the mechanics of that level of consciousness. So in other words, if you can get to those heavens, you've got 3 angels to talk to. Ask them questions, have them show you around. In keeping with okay, hang on. Like the 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths on the Tree of Life, the 30 Aethers can be viewed as emanations of divine consciousness. The 30th or lowest Aether would represent the divine consciousness that is so low that it almost descended into matter. Like it would be that first circle there. It's almost descended into matter. And the first, or the highest aether, would represent the pure and undifferentiated mind of God. Using this model, the 91 parts of the earth, shown in column 4, have their counterparts in the aethers, and the divine names of the parts of the earth, like Pascum is Syria, also serve as the names of angelic governors, who in groups of 3 inhabit the 30 aethers. Wow, so Pascum is not only the angels named for our geographic area of Syria, Pascum is a governor's name, an angel's name, who operates in an aether, in a heaven that is directly enmeshed, entwined, connected to, reflective of Pascum. That aether is connected to that part of the earth. Everything in heaven and earth is connected to everything else in heaven and earth. Just try to separate them. Now, that's 3 governors in each of these 30 heavens, with the exception of the very, very lowest one that is almost matter itself. The only exception to this is the 30th aether, Tex, which has 4 governors. Now, there's a great temptation among modern practitioners to project this 30 aether model on a classic schema of the Kabbalistic tree of life, with its 10 sephiroth and 22 paths that also represent levels of consciousness. Some magicians go so far as to suggest the 30 aethers can simply be divided by 3 into 10 units and superimposed upon the 10 sephiroth of the tree of life. I wish I could believe things were as simple as that. But, as I wrote in the previous chapter, the classic Kabbalistic and Enochian models oblige us to view the same universe from different angles. Aleister Crowley gave perhaps the most comprehensible way of viewing the relationship of the 30 aethers and the tree of life. And that's what I advertised today in today's teaser for today's reading. Here's what Crowley said. It is to be remarked that the last 3 aethers have 10 angels attributed to them, and they therefore represent the 10 sephiroth. I'll illustrate this in a moment. Yet these 10 form but one, a Malkuth, which is pendant to the next 3, and so on, each set being, as it were, absorbed in the higher. The last set consists, therefore, of the first 3 aethers with their 9 governors, with the remaining 27 aethers wrapped up in their Malkuth. The angels Crowley is referring to are the governors of the aethers. Because text contains 4 governors instead of 3, Crowley considered the last 3 aethers, text, re, and bag, as a set, and that would be 30, 29, and 28, text, re, and bag. Crowley considered the last 3 aethers, text, re, and bag, as a set containing 10 governors who could be projected on a tree of life. Now, okay, there's a tree of life. And I'm going to try to do this so you can see it without glare. Okay. There's a regular tree of life. There's Kether, Supreme Singularity, and its Malkuth. Now notice, even in a regular Kabbalistic tree of life, Malkuth is broken up into 4 sections. Just pointing that out. Well, and on that tree, we could say, well, that Malkuth right down there is containing the entire elemental tablets. Those 4 sections are the fire, water, air, earth of the terrestrial elemental things. Okay. Stay with me. There's going to be a payoff here, okay? The lowest of that text is the only one that's got 4 governors. See? And the governors would be living in these Sephira right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Stick with me. It's going to get good. Then that's what it would look like. The lowest 3 aethers, 30, 29, and 28, Texri and Bag, could be projected on a tree of life like that. So Tex has 4 governors, all the others. Re has 3, and Bag has 3. Okay, so that's the lowest 3 aethers. Now, if we take that whole tree of life and wad it up, it's still there, but it's wadded up. And then we turn it into the Malkuth. There it is. We turn it into the Malkuth of the next higher tree. (27, 26, and 25). See, that whole lower tree is now the Malkuth of this tree. And then this tree, containing all of that, is wadded up and placed as the Malkuth of the next higher tree, 24, 23, and 22, which in its own good time is crumbled up and turns into the Malkuth of the next higher tree, 21, 20, and 19. And it's crumbled up and placed into this tree. Well, let's see. Let's be dramatic here, Lon. There it is. And then this tree, 16, 17, and 18, is crumbled up. Nothing is lost. They're all just getting compressed and more tightly placed in the pendant Malkuth of the next higher aethers. All the way up. All the way up. Now we're getting to abyss crossing territory. All the way up to the highest of the tree of life. One, Lil. And its Malkuth contains all 27 trees of life, all the former airs, ethers, heavens, with all of their governors dangling from that master tree of life. These are the top three aethers, Lil, Arn, and Zom. Okay. Crowley then posited that this entire tree of life becomes the Malkuth of the 10, or the lowest sephira of a higher tree of life, made up of the 9 governors of the next 3 aethers, just like Lon said, which in turn become the Malkuth of the next 3 aethers, and so on all the way to the top. You may or may not resonate with Crowley's view on this subject. Still, it's not unreasonable to compare the 30 aethers to the Sephiroth of the Tree of Life, especially when we understand both of them to be levels of personal consciousness and of personal initiation. This is precisely how Crowley viewed them. His systematic scrying of the aethers as he walked across the North African Sahara in 1909 are chronicled in his visionary masterwork, The Vision in the Voice. A text I believe should be studied by anyone interested in Enochian etheric vision work. While I'm certainly not ready to compare my etheric adventures with those of Crowley's, I have on multiple occasions engaged in a systematic exploration of the aethers. I have on a number of occasions scryed each aether, starting with the number 30, Tex, and worked my way up to number 1, Lil. Even my Monday night magic class is obliged to now and again undergo the 30 weeks of scrying the aethers. Am I suggesting that we all actually achieve the sublime levels of consciousness represented by the higher aethers? Of course I'm not. But most of us receive provocative and highly personal visions, especially in the lower aethers. That's because the lower aethers represent levels of consciousness we visit all the time in a natural course of daily life, in dreams, reveries, ecstasies, even deliriums. Even as I write these words, I'm probably dipping into the lower aethers as my memory and imagination conjure images that help me crystallize ideas I can put into words on the page. I probably spent my entire senior year of high school staring into space and cruising the lower aethers. Many of you are drifting in and out of some aethers right now as you're trying to finish listening to me. As the magician moves upwards through the aethers, he or she progressively breaks into higher and higher levels of consciousness. If we're prepared for this new territory, our visions are characterized by a certain spontaneity and lucidity. However, when we begin to get out of our depth, when we haven't yet achieved the level of consciousness necessary to take the next step, our visions become murky and forced, as if we were watching it through a glass darkly. When this happens, the vision is usually characterized by a clear message announcing in no uncertain terms that we have not completely penetrated the aether. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, that's exactly what we want to happen. Because when we know where we are on the initiatory ladder, we want it to happen because it tells us where we are on the initiatory ladder. Moreover, we have a chance of knowing what it is we need to do, or more accurately, we will know who we need to become to take the next step in our initiatory career. Allow me to illustrate with a hypothetical example. Let's say you're resolved to systematically scry all 30 aethers, one per night, from 30 to 1, over a 1-month period. Each night after your scrying session, you dutifully record in your journal the details of your vision. Everything is going along nicely until you attempt to penetrate in vision, let's say the 15th aether, Oxo. You recite the 19th call in the proper manner and call for the 3 governors of Oxo, Tahando, Nokiabi, and Tostoxo. As the vision begins, 3 angels appear in the mirror, crystal, or in your mind's eye, and march into a circle around you so that you cannot move in any direction. They will not respond to your questions or vouchsafe a proper vision. When something like this happens, you know that your present level of consciousness, your personal initiatory grade, is not refined enough to penetrate, let alone appreciate the next aether. It's as though you are a radio receiver not yet equipped to pull in higher frequency broadcasts. In order for you to do so, you'll need to upgrade your equipment by raising your level of consciousness. You'll need to undergo an initiatory experience that will turn you into a more refined visionary traveler. And as in all initiations, there is an obstacle that needs to be overcome. This obstacle can be anything from a physiological issue to a personal demon or character flaw. In order to conquer it, you'll need just a tiny illumination concerning life, or a magical shift of focus, or to successfully achieve a more profound meditative state or trance. You won't need to look far to discover what the obstacle is. It should be right there in your magical diary. In the record of the last aether, you could successfully penetrate. Somewhere in that vision, there's a message telling you what it is you must do in order to take the next step in your spiritual journey through the heavens. It is sublimely simple and personal. It makes Enochian etheric magic, in my opinion, a far more effective and user-friendly method of magical self-transformation than guided meditations or Kabbalistic path workings. The method I use is straightforward. After performing a banishing and a ceremony of preparation, I simply recite the 19th call using the name of the particular aether I wish to visit. Then I repeat the names of the 3 governors of the aether until the vision begins. Now on the lowest aether text said before governors. The vision is usually characterized by the appearance of one or more of the governors who stand ready to answer my inquiries and demonstrate the nature of the aether. As in elemental workings, I try not to tire myself, and afterward make a detailed record of my experiences in my diary. A complete list of governors is found in Chapter 18 in column 4 of the table designated figure 63 in the appendix to figure 90. So they're in a couple places. Okay, I wasted a lot of paper in today's demonstration. For all intent and purposes, we're finished with the text, but there's a lot of end material, and tomorrow we will read the epilogue, and it's called In the Middle of the Night, and then we'll read Appendix 1, which is the ceremony of preparation. Well, I don't know if anyone is still left listening to listening to this. It gets pretty deep. But anyway, I'm giving it my best shot. So, for all of our friends in the Midwest and the East Coast, we are sending our best love and support and our warmth to you, because I understand there's an incredible uh, blizzard event that's taking place. Please take care of yourself. Uh, if you don't have to go out, don't. Don't shovel that snow. Anyway, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.